Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Unity of Charlotte. I'm so happy to see you all here. My name is Reverend Lisa Herklotz. I am co-minister along with Reverend Jim Ernstsen, and we're just delighted to see all your smiling faces here. And if you're joining us on Zoom, welcome. We're glad you joined in today online. And if you happen to be watching this later on our YouTube channel, thanks for checking us out. We like to start our service off by saying our mission statement out loud together. This is the purpose for Unity of Charlotte. So please join with me as we speak our mission. Unity of Charlotte is the place where we nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. Love, grow, and serve. We'd like to welcome anyone who's here for the first time. If you would gently raise your hand and just let us know if you're here. Okay, welcome. Nice to have you here. I'm sure our greeters have already talked to you and given you a visitor's packet if you'd like to take one with you to find out a little bit more about Unity of Charlotte. But we're just delighted to have you in our congregation today. There are many different ways you can find out about Unity of Charlotte. We have a website, a newsletter, a Facebook page. Please go on and like us. We're now on Instagram, Blue Sky, and of course we have the bulletin board outside if you are here in person to check out additional things we have going on. And I want to shout out a big thank you to Kimberly. I don't know if she's in here or not. She created this lovely little take-home, I don't know, we can call it a little flyer. She calls it Fridge and Friends. There she is. Thank you, Kimberly. This is, we try to keep most things online, and we try to be a zero waste and sustainable and nice and kind to our environment. But there are people who like to put things on their fridge to remember we have things going on. So Kimberly put this together. It's all of our events, a little bit about Unity, our website. Take one if you would like to put one on your fridge or share it with friends. That's her name for Fridge and Friends list. So they're out there on the table. Help yourselves. Let's turn inward to prayer. I invite you to gently close your eyes. Take a moment to just let everything else go and turn within. We often say moving from our head to our heart space. Prayer is a time of connecting, communing, and remembering that God is alive in us. God, Spirit, Divine Mind is alive and active within each one of us, and indeed in every living being. This is where we put our focus and attention in gratitude, remembering that despite what may be appearing to happen in this world, there is still a power that is greater. It is the power of the flow of divine life that is underneath everything and moving everything in the direction of life-affirming action and evolution. We send our prayers out to uplift all of those who may be suffering, who may be feeling pain, loss, violence. We hold them in our hearts and uplift them, seeing the presence of God in that situation and in that person, knowing and feeling and affirming in faith, Spirit will work through and carry them through. In this remembering, we express our gratitude to knowing the life, the love, and the divine flow that is ours and in this world, and so it is. I gently open this space now in silence for you to speak a name out loud, of anyone you want to uplift in prayer at this time. World leaders, Mom, Lisa, Unity of Charlotte. We close this sacred space knowing that Spirit has heard these words and is already present and working in and through every one of these requests to bring about the best and highest good. And so it is. Please join with me as we speak together the unity prayer of oneness. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God the good omnipotence. Just a reminder, we have a prayer team, and we have a prayer box outside the door in which you can fill out a prayer request for yourself, for someone else, for the world, for events, for anything you want to lift in prayer. It stays completely anonymous. Those prayers are collected. They go to our prayer team. We also have a form online where you can do the same thing. The purpose of this prayer team is to bring these prayers into their hearts and uplift them as we magnify the presence of the awareness of Spirit working in and through these situations. So please feel free to do that. Also know that there's a silent unity number. That's a 24/7 prayer availability if you need to speak to anyone. That phone number is listed there. It's also on the bulletin board if you need that. Now I would like to invite up Paulette to read our daily word.
Releasing the illusion of control, I practice spiritual surrender. So much more than giving up. Surrendering my efforts and my hopes to the divine within me is an act of empowerment. It means living my faith that God is in and through all things. It means trusting that there are outcomes better than the ones I have imagined. I surrender to God peace and perfection within me. I give up trying to control outcome and relax. Welcome in serendipity and ease. Surrender is the way. My child, give me your heart and let your eyes observe my ways. Proverbs 23, verse 26. Thank you and have a good day.
This month of July, Reverend Lisa and I, first of all, my name is Reverend Jim Ernstsen. It's great to be here. July we picked with the topic of freedom for obvious reasons, Independence Day, but we wanted to move to a greater depth of that topic. We wanted to drill down. We wanted to understand it better. So, July is freedom. Today, I am going to speak a little bit deeper to that in terms of choosing peace over pattern. And in that title, that subtitle will be a little more obvious as we go on. Yeah, peace over pattern. That's all I want to say about that for right now. But what is that old pattern that we're talking about? Well, for me, it's that idea of simply living on autopilot. And we kind of want to move from that, don't we? That autopilot is not the place where we grow, where we live in peace, where we know love to the depth that we want it to be. Autopilot's not where we want to be. So that old pattern sometimes is that place where we're stuck. And I think of my feet kind of in that mud situation. That stuckness is where I want to move from. So that's the old pattern that we're talking about. That's sometimes, unfortunately, the human default of where we find ourselves as we react to things that are happening to us. And here are the words that I'm using. We react to those things that are happening to us. React rather than respond. That's what we're talking about in terms of an old pattern that sometimes we have. Those things that we're reacting to could be those things in the news lately. It could be a relationship issue we have in our lives. It could be social media bombarding us in ways that we don't appreciate. And these things seem like, and hear me when I say these things seem like they're simply happening to us and we react without thinking. I don't really believe that that's what's happening, but it seems like it sometimes. In that stuck situation, it seems like it happens to me and boom, there I am, right? But let's dig down a little bit deeper, because sometimes that human frailty of ours sometimes comes out into the worst of us, where something happens, we react, we end up being bothered, we end up being upset, we end up carrying that with us for hours, for days, for decades. Think about something that's happened to you in your youth that somehow you've carried with you. That's a pattern that we're talking about. And that's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about releasing that and getting back into the peace of the moment. And that's releasing that old pattern. That's releasing that old pattern that's out there. Many of us live in that reaction space rather than in the response space. And that's how we actually move into that place of peace within our lives. Viktor, we already talked about autopilot. Viktor Frankl, which is an author, a psychologist, or psychiatrist, I don't know which, and Holocaust survivor. Does anybody know the book that he wrote? Say again. Man's Search for Meaning. Jeopardy Final. What was the year that he wrote that book? Probably. I'm going to guess early 50s, but you know what? Somebody Google it for us. Somebody Google it and we'll shout that out. Viktor Frankl, just an amazing author, amazing person, wrote this. First of all, Holocaust survivor. But between stimulus and response, there is a space. Let's stop there. Let's stop there. Between stimulus, the stimulus is the things that seem to be bombarding us in the world, right? That is the stimulus. That is the cause of the effect. The stimulus, those are the things, the external things that are happening. Well, maybe not so external, because there's some stuff in my head rattling around that can get me as well. But stimulus, and then there is a response. Viktor Frankl is saying there's a space there in which we have to respond. What does he say? In that space between the two, the stimulus and the response, in that space is our power to choose our response. We have the ability to choose. We are not at the mercy of this cause and effect, this stimulus thing in our lives. And that gives me great hope. I am not a victim in this life. I get to choose. I get to choose. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. And I love the word freedom, of course, again this month, as we talk and drill down into the idea of freedom. Our choice gives us freedom. Our freedom to break free of that pattern that we have found ourselves in. If you're going to tell me you don't have a pattern in your life, I want to hear about it afterwards. I would love to meet somebody who's not working on something right now, because I think we all are, if we're honest with ourselves. So that's Viktor Frankl. The 46, thank you, bing, bing, bing. 46. The big idea that we're going to talk about today, that we are talking about today, is this. As we change that old pattern into our new choice, it is this, that spiritual freedom arises when these two things happen. We pause in that gap between the stimulus and the response. We recognize that there is a gap, and we pause in that, and then we consciously choose peace over that habitual, subconscious maybe even, reactive pattern. This is it. We can all go home. This is the answer to what we're talking about today. We pause and we consciously make a choice. Make the choice for peace, make the choice for love, whatever divine attribute you want to focus on. That's the choice that you're making at the moment. So, what is that gap? Let's look a little bit deeper at that. Let's get that what is the magnifying glass? Couldn't think of the word. Let's get that magnifying glass and look at this idea of the gap. This gap, which is that sacred space where we get to choose once we realize it, right? This is where we notice that the awareness is actually a spiritual practice. Do you hear that? It is a spiritual practice to be aware of what's going on around. This is the here and now that we talk about everywhere. Even on Facebook you hear, live in the here and now. This is the sacred space. This is the practice, is to become aware of what our external stimulus is, the stimuli, and how we react. So we're talking about that spiritual practice here today. What we're doing with that is looking within. When that thing happens, how did that make me feel? It's the noticing. It's the becoming aware. Maybe it's your heart, maybe it's your gut. We're all different in terms of maybe how physically we react to these things or how we become aware of it. But it is the awareness. How is it showing up? Is it showing up as a headache? That's how I become aware of, that is the beginning of that spiritual practice and the idea of noticing in the gap of what that is. That awareness brings connection for us in this world as well. Notice that when you focus on something, when you become aware of something, that awareness brings a deeper connection to you. When I was a kid, we did a project. I was probably in 6th grade at the time, and it was that we went out into the playground. We found a bush or a tree or a blade of grass or a clover or whatever it was. We picked that one little thing and we brought it back into the classroom with us. And each person had something different. I think I had a little clover, is what I would use. And we were to sketch that there at our little table. We spent the next 15 minutes sketching that. And then we got to share what we sketched. And if we knew the name of it, we got to share. The connection, I'm going to tell you, the connection that each of those children, each and every one of my classmates made, we made a strong connection with our own little thing. And that was because of the focus we gave it. Same as when we focus on love, on peace, or whatever, we bring that connection to that moment. The kid that picked a leaf off of the eucalyptus, remember, I grew up in Southern California, so eucalyptus trees everywhere. That eucalyptus leaf, he carried that with him for the next week. He made a connection to that thing. And it was the cutest thing. He had it in his pocket. And I don't remember his name. Joe, let me see your leaf. And he would pull it out. He made a connection to it because of the focus that he brought to that. And we can do the same thing as we're looking within as well to that. Within this gap, Myrtle Fillmore is the co-founder of the Unity Movement along with her husband, Charles. And this is at the turn of the century. But she said that we can begin right here and now. Here's that now moment, again, that we talk about. We can begin where we are right now. It doesn't matter where we are. If we think we're hopeless, which we're not, but wherever you find yourself in this world, wherever you find yourself, that's where you start to let go of old reactions and to choose the higher way, is what she said. Love this woman, Myrtle Fillmore, just love this. So much going on here. Right now, wherever you're at, you start with the old reaction, you notice it, and then you choose again. This is everything boiled up in this one sentence here. I just love this. Myrtle Fillmore. So from the gap, we move into the practice. What is our practice? So we've identified that we have that space in which we move from reaction into response. But what is the practice itself? The practice itself can become, bring curiosity to the moment that you have right here. Don't just judge it like good or bad. This is a bad thing. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to fight against it. Bring curiosity. I wonder why. Why am I reacting to this thing? Why? Spend some time with it. Wiggle around in it. Get dirty with it. Why am I feeling this? This is a learning process. Bring curiosity to this moment that I'm giving awareness to. We bring a sense of wonder or curiosity to this idea. Curiosity is, again, a spiritual tool that we can bring to this process. And this process, I'm going to suggest this process of finding the gap, this process of awareness happens multiple times in our day, not just once, not just twice. This happens constantly in our day. And when we get skilled at finding and noticing and moving into that gap, that brings a higher vibration into our lives. That's where we want to be as well. So that curiosity is a spiritual tool, is what I'm talking about again. And ask yourself, what's going on here? But remain open. Don't think you know the answer right off the bat. Mess around with the idea. Play with it. Move into that heart space. Use this as a learning tool for what's going on in your life here and now. I went too far. Well, we're going to stay there. When I speak about the idea of bringing curiosity to a moment in our lives when something's happened to us here, there are a few of us here in the congregation who attend. We have an event that we do twice a month here in town. It's called Pub Theology. We meet either at Sir Edmund Haley's at the mall down the street. We also meet at the Jade Dragon. And it's a conversation we have. It's a casual conversation, but it is a structured conversation as well. And part of that pub theology is because we may have anywhere between 4 people and a dozen people at a table at a time. So you can imagine if you have a dozen people around this table at one time, Kathy will know what I'm talking about here. A dozen people, there is the challenge of having one conversation at a time, right? It gets really challenging. And that's my job as I facilitate this group, is to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak, that we give each other that chance in a loving environment. We have heart agreements that we use. These heart agreements say as well, not only do we want to be listening with respect to each other, not only do we want one conversation at a time, but we bring curiosity and an open heart to it as well. An open heart and curiosity to a conversation where you might not agree with what Joe said down at the other side of the table. That's a challenge. Jim's been there as well. It's not that this isn't a debate. This conversation is never a debate. It's a getting to know each other, getting to know different opinions, getting to know different viewpoints, understanding maybe the depth of some of these theological points that we talk about. What is the nature of God? I mean, that's pretty deep, and we talk about it. It helps after 2 beers, you know? It kind of opens you up there, you know? But we bring curiosity. That is one of our agreements. We don't sit down unless we agree that if something I don't understand or something that I don't agree with, I can still bring curiosity to that as well. And I don't have to snap at that, oh, that was stupid. No, it's bringing curiosity to that as well. And that curiosity has the effect, and this isn't a conversation. This might be hearing somebody behind you in the line at the grocery store, even though you're not bringing curiosity to that thing, that conversation, those words, that opinion, has the effect of slowing it down. You don't, boom, immediately judge it and have a reaction. Curiosity, wow, I wonder where they got to that point where they feel that X, Y, and Z. So it slows us down in the process, and that's useful. That's absolutely useful in our day-to-day lives. To go beyond that first layer of what's going on in that reductive judgment that we sometimes bring to conversations and the things that we hear, the things that we read out there. We don't immediately jump to that judgment. That's what we're talking about here as well. So now that we've got the teaching, let's move to that idea of this is where we get to choose peace in this process that we're talking about today. This is choosing peace as a spiritual act. Unity has 5 basic unity principles. We actually repeat one of those 5 basic unity principles when we talk about the nature of God as being good and omnipotence. That is one of those. Because we have an idea of what God is. And if you don't like the word God, I understand. You can use the word the universe, divinity, spirit. My brother has an aversion to the word God, and he likes the term spaghetti monster. I don't know what that means. That's a thing that he's grabbed onto. Whatever you call that concept of God in your life, you get to choose peace here. So that is the first basic. The second basic is we were created in that image, so we are good as well. I am just encapsulating this very quickly. The third basic principle is that the thoughts that we hold in mind produce after their kind. This is a co-creative process that is outlined in this third unity principle. Because the things that we think of, the ideas and the thoughts that we hold on to, ultimately create and show up in our world. This is not only a great idea in terms of our creative power, but it brings with it responsibility as well. But the thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. And not every thought that enters your head is popped out into the world, right? I mean, I can think of a pink elephant, and it's not showing up in this room. What you hold for an extended amount of time, what you give energy to, what you feel with your heart at a deep level, that's what you manifest in this world as well. So that third basic principle is that thoughts held in mind. This is where we get to choose. We're going back to that gap. The stimulus, the gap, the response. I get to choose the thoughts that I hang on to in my mind. You see how that works? I get to choose. Let's make them good ones. Let's make those thoughts good ones as well. Gospel of John talks about the idea of being in the world and not of it. This is the same thing. This is being in the world because we are physically bumping into each other in this lifetime. We're in this world, but we're not mired down into the physicalness of this. We rise above that into our spiritual energy, our spiritual vibration. That is what we rise up into this world knowing. We can always control these thoughts, and that's the great thing. I can't always control what the other drivers do on my drive home. If they're cutting me off, if they're slowing down to 15 miles an hour on a 45 mile an hour and what seems aggravating to me. I don't control that, but I can choose how I feel about that, what I bring to that. That's my choice. Is how I respond, not react. Yes. Sometimes I get those two R words messed up. Again, Viktor Frankl with what he talked about as well. So here this guy is in a World War II concentration camp. What he said was that in this book was that with all things that happened to him, all the negative things, all the freedoms that were seemingly taken away from him as he's in a World War II concentration camp, he still had the freedom to choose. Wow. I don't know if I would have gone there. He felt he still had the choice. And he always had that choice of how to respond. Viktor Frankl. I had this synchronistic thing pop up in my Facebook feed this week. And I have got to be the first one to admit that Facebook, I probably spend way too much time on Facebook. But this one was a synchronistic, and I loved it because it was exactly what I was researching for this talk here today. And it says, I don't have to react. And I'm starting to learn this fact, is what this graphic told me. I don't have to react to everything that bothers me. Sometimes I just need to breathe, let go, and protect my peace. I'm going to change this a little bit and live in my peace. I breathe. I let go of the seeming control. And I move into peace. I live in that peace as well. The result. What is the final result that we're talking about in this whole process? This gap, we paused, we noticed, we got curious, we claimed our freedom, that freedom which could be peace in our mind, peace in our heart, peace in our soul that the music talked about. We awaken to the Christ presence within us. That Christ presence is not, let me say, we do not believe no, let me put it this way. Within the unity movement, we believe that Christ's presence is us. We're not talking about Jesus. Jesus had the Christ presence as well and demonstrated that. We have the Christ presence in our lives as well. So we awaken to the Christ presence within and respond from spirit rather than fear. Fear is taking that external thing and stewing over it. That's what the fear is. And instead, we give it that higher vibration and live in love with that as well. So, you'll see that on our website, within our Unity of Charlotte website, go on there and you'll see that we talk about that we are a positive, practical, progressive approach to Christianity based on the teachings of Jesus and the power of prayer. Positive, but what I'm focused on here today is practical. We say that we are practical. So with all of this that I'm talking about here today, what do we practically take with us throughout the day, throughout the week ahead as well? And I'd like us to take this little peace prayer as a practical thing that we can do. This is what you can do. Again, you can be in that grocery store line and nobody knows that you're doing this. If that's where you need it. You can do it in the car as you're driving down the street. Let me explain this. And this came from the Gospel of Mark. This came from the idea of when Jesus and the disciples were out on the Sea of Galilee. There was a storm, there was wind, there was waves, there was a lot of fear going on. And the next thing I want to say is that we don't always believe that the Bible, the New Testament, the Old Testament is literal. So we bring a metaphysical approach to all of these stories. This story of Jesus and the disciples out on the Sea of Galilee, it's not just a story of something that literally happened. We want to bring a metaphysical understanding to it so that we can move it into our own lives. This idea of a storm, that's the storm in our lives that we're experiencing from time to time. What do we do with that? And Jesus modeled what we do with that. He said, peace, be still. And the sea's calmed. Our lives will calm. This is the peace that we bring between or in that gap. These are the thoughts that we hold in mind. This is not to prove that Jesus had control over nature. Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't care. This is the story of how I bring peace into my life. That's what this Sea of Galilee story means to me. So I breathe. When I do the inhale inside my head, silently to myself, I breathe in and say, peace. And when it's time for me to breathe out, I say, be still. And I do this 3 times. Let's do it together. So silently, breathe in, peace. Breathe out, be still. Breathe in, peace. Breathe out, be still. Breathe in, peace. Breathe out, be still. And then go back to your normal breath. And I challenge any one of you to tell me that you don't feel better right now. You can do this any time of day or night. If you wake up in the middle of the night in anxiety, peace, be still. The other thing I want to share with you is the affirmation that I will be taking with me this week. You can use this, you can change the words, you can use something different. Within Unity, we have affirmations. We include denials and affirmations. We let go of something in order to replace it. So the denial piece of this statement is, I'm not bound by past patterns. I give them up. I don't want it. I'm not bound by past patterns. I choose anew. That's my affirmation for this week. I choose anew. Let's say it out loud. So together. I am not bound by past patterns. I choose new. Thank you. Thank you. Let's move into meditation. I invite you to wiggle around, to move, to find your position. Feet on the ground makes a whole lot of sense to most people. Find a place for your hands to rest on your legs and your lap. However, it doesn't matter. Just find yourself a comfortable spot. If closing your eyes makes sense, do that. Otherwise, you can watch that candle on the screen. You can listen to that music in the background. You can breathe. You can use that peace be still if you'd like. Or you can listen to my words. Or just move into silence. As we take this moment, we realize, we tell ourselves that let me use the I statement, I am naturally at peace. I choose peace. I focus on that spiritual quality of that gap within my life, that curiosity in my life. And I replace those patterns with love. Ultimately knowing that love that is mine, that peace that is here now. I know that ultimately my reality is spiritual. I do live in this physical world, but my spiritual nature is my ultimate reality. I am here as one with my fellow travelers. I lend a hand where needed. I rejoice, I live in joy each and every day. As I spend the next minute in silence. And as we begin to come out of this quiet time, we claim that peace that we now know is our birthright. It is ours. I carry it with me. I indulge in that peace. Namaste.
Thank you, Reverend Jim. Lord, that Inspiring talk about freedom. And I did want to mention before I move forward that next Sunday, Lawrence Tolliver will be joining me on the Sunday platform as we deliver the message. Yes? Good. I'm making sure he's giving me the nod. As we continue to look into this spiritual idea of freedom. But now is our time to move into the opportunity to experience that beautiful circulation of flow, of giving and receiving, because Unity is so grateful for your gifts and talents that you bring to this community. It is how we get to continue to be here and present and give to our greater community. There are many different ways to give. We're always looking for consistent giving. It helps the church really function from a budgetary perspective. But anything you can give, there's many ways to do it. Online, leave money in the plate, a check, or QR codes. Or you can set up a bill pay. We'd be happy to help you with that. But now I would like you to take that gift in your hand. If you're giving online, just imagine you are holding the energy of that give. And let's say their abundance blessing together. Joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. Ushers. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. We are light, love, power, and presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.